Hello, good evening and welcome. Obviously, we're in red and black, and the whole multimedia is in black because one of our illustrious sons, Komlo Dumor, passed on Saturday. Been really a terrible blow for all of us, and may his soul rest in peace, and condolences to his family. Also to Sam Hesse, who worked at Metro TV, another gallant young man who did brilliant reports on social issues. Same Saturday, also passed. May his soul rest in peace, and condolences to his family. However, today the topic is about the water sector, the challenges and the prospects ahead. Recently, we heard the Ghana Water Company saying they're going to propose prepaid meters for water. And obviously, civil society is kicking against it, that no, the poor is going to be hit and the rich is going to sail through. And so for the very reason why you are bringing it, may defeat the whole object. But is that true? With me in the studio is Leonard Shan Korte, a policy analyst in charge of water and health at ISODEC, to actually tell us, what is it? Has the Ghana Water Company got enough investment? Are people putting enough money for it to become what it's supposed to be, serve you and I? We're here to discuss it. My name is Nana Ansakwa, and this is PM Express. Ghana Water Company challenges and prospects. And with me in the studio is Leonard Shan Korte, a policy analyst in charge of water and health at ISODEC. And he's probably here to educate us as to if and ever, or if ever, every household in this country would have pipe-borne water. You don't have to ring home and ask, is the tap running, before you get home. Good evening, and Leonard, welcome to the show.
Good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
I'm going to go straight into the objection from ISODEC with regards to prepaid meters. Now, everybody would think that ISODEC should be championing a cause on prepaid meters, but you were kicking against it. I mean, what is so wrong in making sure that everybody's water goes through a prepaid meter, and then you can collect more revenue?
I think everybody would have expected that ISODEC should be kicking against prepaid metering proposition because basically it's anti-human rights and it's anti-life. But then beyond that, I think we still commend the GWCL because this shows that they are working hard at finding some innovative means of improving the situation, even though this solution cannot be said to be apt for the current challenges that we face in the water sector. So yes, we do commend them for at least showing signs that something is being done to address some of the problems that we have. But then this particular proposition or proposal is a mismatch compared to the kind of challenges that we have.
The very people in society that you are protecting are already doing prepaid.
Oh, yes, I mean, it will be convenient for proponents of the market-oriented views to put up such an argument. But then that will not offer a correct analysis of the problem. I mean, what we see in terms of the poor now being subject to prepaid is a result of some particular problems. It's a result of years of neglect of GWCL. And now this has become the norm. What civil society, citizens included, should be doing to help the situation is to reverse this trend, not to normalize it, and not to use it as an excuse to have an imposition of a prepaid metering regime. I think we should delve to the cause of this particular issue and then reverse it with time. And it took a number of years for GWCL to get to the stage in which it is now in terms of the challenges that it faces. And yes, it's going to take some time to be able to address some of these issues for the poor, rich and poor alike, to have access.
If they go for prepaid, normalized prepaid meters, it will be cheaper than the prepaid meter now, where you take, well, I wouldn't say meter, but the prepaid system where you take your Kofor gallon or your bucket to the tap, pay your 30 pesos, fill your bucket and take it home, because in any case you now paid for it before you're taking the water home. If we regularize it, it will probably work out cheaper than what you're doing now. When I come back from the break, we'll look at that. Stay tuned. The analyst in charge of water and health at ISODEC. And also, I think that's your phone. Yeah, just good. Before my director comes in and kicks you. The other thing is log on to Facebook and then post a comment there. We just want to find out if prepaid metering for water, if you think it's a good idea or if it's a bad idea. Log on there. Let's see what your comments are, and I'll read it when I get to it. Before we went on the break, Leonard, I wanted to find out that, you see, we're all kicking against it, to hit the poor or to hit the underprivileged in society. However, the underprivileged in society pay 20 pesos to have a shower, they pay 30 pesos to have a bucket of water, and they pay before they get it, which is literally prepaid. Now, if you bring in the meter, they'll probably have a fairer pricing system than they are having now. So why don't we advocate for it rather than abolish it? That's what I'm...
I know that's not your argument, but that's the argument from the GWCL.
I mean,
but then to put it that way...
Well, let me go further, because they are saying that for 1 CD 29 pesos, you will get 1,000 liters of water, which works out to be 220 gallons of water, or between 5 and 8 drums of water for 1 CD 30 pesos. I mean, surely everybody would want that.
Yes. To put it that way will be to oversimplify the issue. Water is not just like any other commodity. Water is not like electricity or telecom. I mean, you are dealing with an essential commodity that is very essential for the sustenance of life. So we cannot look at it in that terms. Indeed, it has huge consequences for the rights of access, and then also has huge consequences for public health. So, for instance, having not done any proper sort of impact study of even this particular policy proposition and to ration, and at the moment you can see a lot of inconsistencies back and forth, that even the GWCL has not even properly considered this policy, and you don't take such decisions that have huge implications on public health such lightly, and to be going back and forth. Today you tell the public that you have decided to go this direction, and it's going to be piloted, and it's going to cover both domestic, industrial settings. Then you go back and say, no, it's going to focus on industrial setups. It means you've not done any proper analysis of the situation, not to talk about any impact sort of studies so we cannot reduce the discussion to that level. But then I think I have answered this question earlier.
No, you see, I still stand by my point.
Yeah,
if this is what they are saying,
yeah, I'm coming there.
Then it's cheaper than what is there now. Let me just read the report, the statement that's just been released this evening. I don't know if you've had access to it. This is from Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing. Supports prepaid meters for industrial and commercial consumers of water. And it says the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing has expressed its support for the new policy of the Ghana Water Company Limited to introduce prepaid meters for water consumption by commercial and industrial consumers. The ministry notes that the GWCL does not intend at this moment to apply the same policy to residential and domestic consumers. The policy has become necessary because of the willful non-payment, the necessary charges by a number of large-scale users of water, including some producers of sachet water. The ministry further explains that the efficient monitoring of water usage by commercial and industrial customers, followed by timely changing and payment, will enhance the capacity of Ghana Water Company Limited to produce and supply safe potable water to Ghanaian public in safe and a more sustainable and affordable manner. This is Alhaji Collins Dawda, Minister for Water and Resources.
I think that's very interesting retreat also, maybe partly due to the public reaction to the initial proposition. Limiting it to basically industrial setup, yes, will have its advantages and will have its disadvantages, but then that is yet to be studied and assessed in terms of its impact. So that is something that this will not be applied to domestic settings, then maybe we would have to look at the modalities that will be involved here. But then basically to also have an in-depth study of its impact, because I've earlier mentioned that such decisions can have serious consequences. So for instance, if you push an industrialist to the corner and without us also not having a strong sort of enforcement regime in terms of factory inspection and what have you, you can have some industrialists going for alternatives which might not be safe, and that will have huge consequences on public health. But then that is yet to be studied if that is the new approach of the ministry and the Ghana Water Company Limited. I think we as a public and as a country will have to study this new proposition and then see what it will bring in terms of impact. Then we'll take it forward from there.
I really want to know what the public would take with regards to the industrial or commercial use, because surely that I think it's the right course, because we have adopted this system of subsidize this, free that, subsidize this, and I think it's time we got into the habit of knowing that there's no free lunch and we have to pay for services that we get. So if prepaid meter for biscuit factories or aluminium factories, you're going to prepaid their meters, I'm sure ISODEC could be happy.
Yeah, I think that, like I mentioned, this is a retreat by the GWCL and the ministry on the issue, and we have to study this new proposition. But then, like I said, this is an issue that we cannot just decide on without taking a proper look at its consequences. We have to do some of these studies. But then that you could see a clear indication of a situation where the ministry and the GWCL not having done some of these studies. And I think
they're saying they did 3 studies, one in a low income area, one in a middle income area, one in a high income area, and even a gated community. So they've actually done research. Let me also put it on record that GWCL pulled out really at the last minute, because they were supposed to be here to speak for themselves, but right at the 9th hour, they pulled out. So it's not as if I'm doing a slanted show here. So I am trying to represent them as best as I can. And so they're saying they've done enough tests.
So Nana, you could still see the murkiness of the situation. You've mentioned all this, but then without industry. They've not done any particular study on industry, but this policy, as they claim, is targeted at industrial and commercial setup.
And not for what they have done the research.
Yes, so you could see that things are very sketchy, and I think they would have to do a better work than this.
I mean, one would ask, why this whole quagmire of prepaid meters anyway?
Yeah, I think basically if you look at the policy proposition, you could say that it is targeting revenue collection, and then which you say, oh, it's a good thing. But then if you study some of the reports of GWCL, particularly a report that AVRL did, they claim to have achieved some level of success in that area in terms of revenue collection, where they had a ratio of about 90% in terms of collection. So basically 10% not collected as at, and this report was in 2011. That was when AVRL, Aqua Vitens Rand Limited, was leaving. So now with GWCL proposing prepaid metering, then one would want to guess that maybe we are having some challenges with revenue collection. So maybe because prepaid metering basically targets that. That's one. The other situation or challenge that prepaid metering could be targeting will be to manage demand. Now you know that we have this massive rationing going on. So for instance, if you have prepaid metering and you have a community with a demand of about 50,000 paid and unpaid, I mean, prepaid metering will automatically take out those non-paid and only supply. So basically you have a situation where the limited volumes of water that we have in terms of our present capacity will be able to sort of sufficiently serve the kind of demand that is backed by readiness to pay, meaning that
for... Are you not prejudging that?
No, I'm only, GWCL itself is not clear on the issue. So now we have to delve into what will prepaid metering be targeting. And I've said, one, it could be targeting improving revenue collection. Revenue collection, as put by AVRL, is not so much an issue. They achieved a success rate of about 90%. So it could have been that since AVRL left the scene, GWCL might have slipped down, and now they want to institute this measure to improve on that. If that is not the case, then they could be targeting managing the current demand. So
with regards to revenue collection, even if we all paid our bill, they're saying between 40 to 50% of water is getting lost in the pipeline due to poor infrastructure. So even if we all paid, we're still short about 40 to 50% of whatever money we put in the first place. I mean, have you done any research, and how does Ghana Water Company recover these losses?
I mean, the kind of investments that you're looking at for replacement and rehabilitation expansion are huge investments. I mean, and usually that is not done through tariff financing. That in most, even in Ghana, it is supported through the budget. So basically, that is the situation that you are looking at. But then, because of the long period of neglect of the sector, you have a backlog of gaps in investment, which had not gone to GWCL in order to do some of these things. These are not issues that you can address through tariffs. These are not. Tariffs basically can go to support operating costs, but then you cannot target tariffs to finance some of these huge capital investment costs. So I think, so that's why we need a complete sort of picture from GWCL, because if you put a policy out there, you are bringing about prepaid metering. It does not stand alone. It should have certain factors that have caused it, and then it should have certain factors that it is targeting. And we should be able to locate some of these issues so that we'll be able to properly connect what do you call it, prepaid metering in the midst of the challenges that GWCL face. But I think we can go into some of these issues as we go on in the discussion.
Of course, my next question then is, I mean, with the amount we are paying for water, the amount that is getting lost, I mean, who would want to come and put their money in there? Because we're not paying enough. I mean, if they're saying they're going to charge 1 CD 29 pesos for 1,000 liters of water, I mean, if you put your investment in there, you know, it's going to take you 4 generations to break even, let alone make profit. And by then, the infrastructure is broken down again. You know, I mean, that 1 CD 29 pesos for 1,000 liters of water.
I don't think you have to look at those figures and allow those figures to scare you. Initially, you said we cannot get some of these things for free. But then nobody's asking for any freebies. Nobody's asking for any freebies. We are only asking for our taxes to be rightly invested. We are saying that there are certain key things that need priority on the spending list. One is water, health, education. At least prioritize some of these issues and let a significant amount of budgetary allocations to finance some of these essentials because they are necessary for our basically existence, and then also in the case of water, living a dignified life. It also have implication on health. So nobody is asking for any freebies. We are saying that properly invest our taxes, prioritize our needs.
But we are not paying enough for that investment.
And whose problem in terms of who is not paying enough?
The billing. I mean, we the consumer is not paying enough per liter in terms of if it costs us, let's say, 1 CD per liter, we are probably paying less per liter, you know. So then the investor doesn't want to come in because I don't want to put in, you know, 1 CD per liter and then come and sell it to you at 50 pesos per liter, which means every liter I sell to you, I lose 50 pesos.
I think you're going back on the issue again. That's why we contribute in terms of taxes as citizens. We pay taxes to government. So we expect that, yes, we are supporting by paying some revenues to GWCL, but then our tax money should also be invested into some of these areas. Like I said, you cannot expect to raise enough revenue through tariffs to finance some of the serious issues that GWCL has in terms of rehabilitation, in terms of expansion, in terms of replacement of worn-out facilities. You cannot do that by way of tariff financing. These are huge investments that will require government support. And these are some of the areas that we expect that our tax contributions will go to. There's a reason why I mean, there's these deductions mentally. There is the VAT that any item that you buy in the country, there's a deduction. So there's a reason why these monies are collected and then put in a pot to finance some of these services that each one on his own cannot provide for himself. So nobody, let me go back to that same point again. Nobody is calling for any freebies. Nobody is calling for any free lunch. We are only asking for the right prioritization of issues that have to do with allocation of public finances and their judicious and proper utilization.
I think that's why Aqua Returns Rand came in to do the management so that the books could look clean, the revenue collection could look effective, to attract people to want to come and invest. They did work.
Yeah, I mean, then we go back again. For instance, like what the current prepaid metering situation. If there is a problem that you want to address, you have to properly define the problem before you get the right solution. So, for instance, if you have a child truancy situation and you choose to define it as a situation of the incorrigibility of the child, then there is a measure that you apply to that. If you also choose to look at it in terms of a product or a result of family breakdown, there is a way that you will look at child truancy. I mean, both are solutions, but then one has higher cost than the other. For example, if you try to look at it in terms of the incorrigibility of the child, then you apply the cane, and that costs nothing. But then if you are looking at it widely in terms of family breakdown and the consequences and all of that, you realize that then you have to set up counseling offices to support, provide, but then that entails cost. So there are times that we would want to wrongly define the problem in order to avoid cost. So for instance, you mentioned AVRL. AVRL came in to provide management expertise. Yes, we did have management challenges, but then the bulk of the challenges that we had with the water sector then had to do with investments. So for instance, if you provide a management solution to an investment problem, you don't expect to get much out of it. And lo and behold, in 2011, or even before then, the technical audit that was conducted on that arrangement found it to had woefully failed. And it failed because we applied the wrong solution. So we have to go back.
Is that not unfair to say we apply the wrong solution? I mean, to hire a technical managerial team to take over a company to make sure that things are effective, pipelines that get burst will be fixed quicker rather than later. I mean,
yes,
are you not being too hard on them?
I think you've even cited, you talked about need for replacement of best pipelines and what have you. All those things did not happen. All those things did not happen because it was simply a management solution without the investment to go with it. So basically, they also came and tried to know what they can do best. So basically, in the areas that AVRL perform well, the areas relating to customer relations, and then also improving on the accounts receivables of the company. And that was simple. You basically have to disconnect the defaulter, and then payments will come in, or the defaulter will cease accessing them. So they were able to apply their management expertise in these areas. Mm-hmm. But then the chunk of the problem remained. And the problem is as a result of the least prioritization of the sector, which has fed into, and this decline began as far back as the late 70s and the early 80s. And it has culminated up to this point. And so we are talking about years and years of lack of investment that has led us to where we are now. It means that we have to go back and then do what we failed to do in the past.
Let's go on Facebook and see what people are saying. What they post there is, do you think pre-billing meter system to be introduced by the Ghana Water Company on a pilot basis for industrial and commercial use will be effective? PMX, that's what we're discussing, obviously, on the show. And Dixon Wanyonu says, it will only be effective if officials of Ghana Water Company pay regular visits to perform checks. Ghanaians are smart. Hanuman Gavi says, yeah, if only the necessary people take the necessary steps. And Rodney Neboy Texan says, it will not work. Instead of properly maintaining the system to ensure regular, they are rather thinking of prepaid. That will not solve our problem. As I speak, it's 3 weeks now that the Biokoshi, the water is not flowing. Thank you. And Nete Chika says, this is so annoying. Taps hardly flow. What's the use? Obeying Teko's minister says, water cannot be treated in the same fashion as other utilities. Metering water might deprive the impoverished of life if they are unable to pre-finance it. Since water is life, the new proposed system should be discouraged. And the last one says, I think water is a necessity of life, and that for both poor and rich should access it too. I think it's going to be a very challenging. I'm going to take a break here, and then when we come back, we're going to find out if how much investment is needed for us all to get water, if that analysis has ever been done. Stay tuned. So the question before we went on the break is, how much money do we need so that everyone has good, clean, potable, pipe-borne water in their household? Now, I want to find out if ICODEC has any figure, because I have a figure from Ghana Water Company.
Yes, there's been past studies that have been done. One of the studies put it at 1.5 billion. But then I understand there is also a new figure of 2 billion.
2 billion by 2025.
Yeah, by 2025.
And that includes the projection of population growth. And that's obviously within the urban areas. Well, what I wanted to find out from you, because you have figures of households that are metered and households that are not metered. So what percentage do you have for households that are metered?
Basically, I don't have the aggregate figures. So basically, you can look at the situation in Atma, that's Accra, Tema metropolitan area. For you, metered consumption within this area, as of 2010, was around 29.3%. And then what they call authorized non-metered consumption was at 13.9%. But then the issue is that this percentage from, if you look at the technical audit of 2009-2010, seems to be edging up, seems to be climbing up, which is an indicator of something that I'll come back to later. But then the figures for Kumasi also stands at 32.5% for metered authorized consumption, and then 32%. 32%. That's a huge figure for authorized non-metered consumption. Nkoko has the highest authorized non-metered consumption, and here we are talking about houses without meters, but still authorized to consume, and are billed based on estimates. And Nkoko has a percentage of about 41%.
So, I mean, would that be a house, or would that be like a school, an institution, or because I find
I think these are aggregate figures for the various regional directorates of GWCL. So they include all of these because these are basically aggregate figures that we are looking at. If we want to know what schools are consuming, if we want to know what, for instance, industry, public sector such as the MDAs, are also, then we would have to disaggregate some of these figures, and we'll need that data from GWCL.
Then another thing which is, we are so short of water, we haven't got enough to go around. However, you take your old rickety pickup to go and wash it, and they wash it with treated water. Yeah. So what are we doing? Are we going to do a policy where treated water should literally be for drinking, and things like watering your garden and washing a car should be used? We use untreated water. How do we manage the two? And is there any study or anything?
Yes, I think wasting such amount of water is nothing to sort of comment. But then instead of looking at the demand side of the problem, I think we should be looking at the supply side of the problem. Why is it the situation that there's not enough water? And the reason is because of limited capacities. So if we want to solve the situation of scarcity, it means we have to improve on the existing capacity. And I think that's where we have to commend the present government and the past administrations alike, that some efforts are being made to improve upon existing capacities. Indeed, we have been assured that before the end of this year, or by December, areas such as Adenta and some of these communities that have for long been experiencing shortages or non-flow at all will soon having water flow from their taps. And I think that will be as a result of improving the current limited capacities that we have.
Even if they got the 2 billion, and by 2025 we all had water in our house, won't it still be necessary to go further to say, listen, this treated water is for drinking only, and that for washing cars and cleaning gutters and cleaning the street, you need to find a different source of water which is not, we haven't spent money on to use for that purpose.
Yes. I think elsewhere in other jurisdictions, you have a situation where you have different kind of lines supplying different levels of quality of water. So basically, there's some water that you can use for set purposes, and then others mainly meant for
the policy to dig boreholes, that you can only do boreholes for car wash?
No, I mean, just imagine everybody digging a borehole.
Well, I mean, just for car wash.
But then the point that I'm coming to is that, for instance, if we want such an effect, we have to cause it through policy. We cannot just expect it to happen. So if this is what we want, then we have to sort of look at the existing policy framework and then see how that could be provided for in terms of the alternative being readily made available. Then there, and I know people, most of these people have good conscience, and if they have ready alternatives, they would have used, but then the alternatives are not there. And some of these things can only be a product of policy. Their absence is the lack of a clear policy addressing the situation. So we have to go back and then look at the supply side.
I'll read some favors and comment, and when I come back to you, I'll find out why it is that we are so afraid of prepaid. I'll come back and find out. And I'll ask the question properly so we take it. I think that this is from Pius Kwame Lincoln. He says, I think the decision is incorrect. And Prince Charles says, why is everybody making everything difficult for the average Ghanaians? And Mario Perez says, we should first think of increasing the capacity of the flow of water from our taps. We are interested in value for money, but it will only be effective if there is a workable task force who are committed in regular monitoring checks to ensure people don't engage in any means of tapping water. And Don Atta Cruz says, the ruling government has already denied innocent souls. It's not the ruling government. Benjamin Hassan says they have workers, so they should start the pilot basis from their houses for a year and see the outcome before coming to us. Kulu Esa Ali says Ghanaians are only complaining. They will see the good effect later. Gideon Kwapna Duma says it will effective only if proper measures are put in place to regulate the system. Bad leadership can also sabotage its effectiveness. And Jay says, don't even know what to say about this unless it's got nothing to do with NDC. This is I don't want us to look at political. This is a serious managerial issue and challenges which has been there since God knows when. There's always been that shortage all throughout. So we just need to find it. Lisa Betty Euphoria Manfo, that is not a decision to make. Jerry Eric Glyph says, Nana, clearly this is a lazy way of solving problem. Has water ceased to be a necessity? Already businesses are performing poorly due to the erratic power supply, and GWSL wants to compound the problem. Prepaid metering for water. Our leaders are short of ideas. Very funny. He says, let me read this one and I'll come back to you. They should find appropriate ways to minimize the waste and efficiencies in the system. Perhaps it could be piloted at the presidency, at the ministries, and the residence of government officials. This is David Quadri Sam. Now, you see, the reason why I ask why people are so scared of prepaid, at the moment, as to whether you get water or not, is literally a gamble, try or luck. I mean, in the last 3 days, I've had my tap cut about 2 times in the last 3 days. Now, they are saying that if we go to prepaid, it will actually work out cheaper. They'll give you more liters per money. That's number one. And number two, the system is still, until we get our 2 billion in 2025, we're still working on a gamble. So why are we panicking? For those who use their bucket to go fetch water, it's cheaper. For those who, sit in their house and wait for the tap to flow, you just sit and hope to God that it flows. If it doesn't, well, you have your barrels filled up, you use it until it flows. Why are we panicking?
I think one is because it's a very cruel way of managing demand. The best way to manage demand is to increase capacity. You don't institute a prepaid metering regime to cut off those without the economic means, where once you run out of your unit, you are out and can't access. So in view of that, I think it's a very cruel way of doing that. And it leads to the next issue. I mean, this will be a serious infringement on the human right to water and the right to life. I mean, that's fundamental, where people are automatically disconnected. That cannot. But then beyond, you realize that such a situation is going to lead us to a terrain where the gains that we have made in terms of gender equality, in terms of education and increasing the gender parity ratio, it's going to lead us to a situation where some of these gains are going to be eroded. Because the situation is that when water becomes scarce, when poor areas are targeted mostly for some of these policies, the lot fall on women and children to be the carriers of water wherever they can get it for their household. So I think that there's a lot that we can do in terms as citizens by coming together, and I'm very glad that citizens are engaging and they are expressing their views on this issue. And indeed, there's been some solutions that have been. I think we should continue with this. Indeed, ISODEC is planning, together with some of its partners, to soon call for a public forum on this issue, where some of these people expressing their views here will have the opportunity to express them at a formal setting where we can have some of these suggestions documented. I mean, the problems of Ghana Water Company Limited is a national problem. It is our problem. And we as a collective can work together in ensuring that there is safe and universally accessible water for all, irrespective of one's economic standing.
See, but what they're saying is that if you have the token from the Ghana Water Company, you'll be buying water much, much cheaper than you would buy now. They have the PURC approved tariff. Because if at the moment, if I fill my polytank and you came, I can charge you anything, 30 pesos or 40 pesos.
I think I answered this question at the beginning, that this particular, nobody is proud about the situation where the poor is currently paying more because of the challenges that GWCL is facing. Mm-hmm. But then the solution is not prepaid metering, because the challenges of GWCL does not have anything to do with revenue collection at this stage, at least from their own records as at 2011.
Let me make it cheaper for an institution if you just have to come and buy and go and use it, rather than me coming to chase you.
Let me come to your point. So it has nothing to do with, at least as from a report from then as at 2011. So now let me address the issue. This is not the first time that GWCL is coming out with such a thing. This is not going to be the first pilot. Indeed, what they have not told the public is that this has been attempted before. There has been a similar pilot which was tried out in some of the communities around Tema. So there's been that study. Mm-hmm. GWCL has not been able to share the results of that study with the public. So
lack of information has been another issue.
Indeed, in that pilot, mm-hmm. some of the accounts from those who experienced what happened is that initially they began with very low tariffs, So it was as if the tariffs shut down. But in about 6 months, there was a doubling
of the tariff. Unfortunately, that's all time will allow me. But what I'll do, we'll try and see if we can get them to get authorization to come on the show so that we can all sit down and Jojo. But generally, from the comments on Facebook, and thanks to all you guys who made a comment, Albert and for instance, no way, no room for such administration errors to occur in the eyes of Ghanaians. This decision is unhealthy to our current economic situation. Peoples are much be responsible for bringing destructive information to general public for discussion. So basically, people are just saying that, listen, this is not and I think that Ghana Water Company should do a lot in terms of education on this issue. And Leonard, I want to say thank you. And obviously, like you said, RIP, rest in peace to our one and only brother, Kobna Jumo. And, for me personally, what I take from his life was that zeal to work and achieve perfection. And what I've learned in his death is that I've heard so many accolades. And not even one person has come out to say that he even owned a television or a car. It's all about the good work he did. So I guess that's the purpose of living, that you need to do something positive in this life. Because when you are gone, everything that you acquired materially would not mean anything but what you left to humanity. And I think we're all grateful for the life he led. My name is Nana Sakau, and as I always say, tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Nana.